Uh, Lost a little sleep over preparing for this live, to be totally honest. And, it's an opportunity to cast all of my cares and anxieties upon the Lord whenever I feel a little nervous about something and I'm worried about what will people say, what will people think, what will people do. This is a spicy topic. And I think I wanted to start this day talking about the Christian moms groups in Halloween. And on Friday, when I go live again, then I'm going to share a little bit more about my own personal journey. Just as a family, as a young family, first generation Christians, when we had, our oldest was only 4, we had 4 little kids, and now we have almost 11. We had to wrestle this out. We really had to think it through. I didn't grow up in a Christian family. I really wasn't prepared for motherhood. And there were so many decisions to make in the early years, everything from medical decisions to educational decisions, then to like cultural decisions. Like it's a lot at once. There's not always this really handy manual or, always this one trusted person you can talk to. And so I'm going to share from my heart today. And I prayed before I got on this live. I'm praying, don't pray before every live, but I really did. Because you may have noticed in some of the moms groups online, some Halloween posts are flying. So I'm thinking Christian moms groups. I'm part of a couple of them. And some of the comments have had to be turned off, right? The moderators have been like, enough. This has gotten really personal. Instead of talking about the issue, things have devolved into attacking each other for holding different positions. And that's what I would like to speak to today. So that's my heart on where I'm coming from. I care about personal witness for Christ. That's something that's deeply important to me. I was saved by God's grace when I was 21 years old. And now that I just turned 43. Some people in the early days, people who are just kind of naysayers are like, oh, that Christian phase, we've seen it. It won't last. I am so grateful to say that not only has it lasted, but I have continued to grow by God's grace year after year and diving into his word. My husband got saved a couple months after me. Well, then we became married. So it's been a journey of growing in his word, in knowledge of his character. And in the early years as a parent, there are, decisions and choices that I made then that I have since had a change of heart about now. Big one would be embracing the blessing of children. And I just wrote a whole book about it that, oh my gosh, it hit bestseller in more than one category. That's amazing because I really wanted to share from my heart. It's been a journey. And some things have helped me along that journey. Some things have really hindered. And other people kind of attacking me or coming down hard on me, especially in Christian circles, have rarely assisted me in really thinking through an issue and processing it. And sadly, when people kind of piled on the shame or the like, now, you should know this, you should do this, you should see it the way I see it and do it the way I do it. When they kind of had that approach with me, especially in my earlier years as a Christian, like almost as human nature, I would almost want to go the opposite way, right? And it takes a level of humility and maturity to deal with an issue and not kind of deal with how someone's approaching you with the issue. That has been a journey and I've grown in it. So because I care so much about personal holiness, I care so much about Christian witness, I care about these things. I have a well-defined position on Halloween, which I'm happy to share, graciously, not necessarily like shame bashing other people if they don't happen to take the same position as me, but I'm perfectly happy to share the journey because I think it's very relatable. And if you are like a younger mom, you're in the early years of like, do I do Halloween? Do I not do Halloween? I don't know. Like I've heard really good arguments either way. I don't know. I've walked that road, so I'll share that on Friday. Spoiler alert, we just have a family night. Just heads up. No need to leave you in suspense. We've just chosen in the end to keep it a family night. But the journey of getting there was a multi-year process. And since then, I've noticed that, like I'm going to talk about today, some women help that process and some well-meaning moms, especially Christian Facebook moms, really made it harder. So you might have noticed there's sort of a spectrum of opinion when it comes to Christian moms talking about Halloween, especially online. Can be quite polarized. And there's kind of like 2 main groups. And on one side, there's kind of the anti-Halloweeners, or more on the anti side. They don't do Halloween in some way, shape, or form at all. And their comments, in my observation, and I have read hundreds of comments this week just to like double check it was the way it was 5 years ago when I took a big, massive break from Facebook. They range anywhere from very graciously thought-provoking and what I would consider helpful to downright personal attacks on other fellow Christian moms' integrity, character, parenting, or even their salvation. I'm just saying, I've seen it, and I've seen it frequently. They're not rare, but they're in there, and then the comments get turned off, right? And then there's the more like pro Halloween side, if you will, people who do choose to celebrate as Christians with their children Halloween in some way, shape, or form. And usually they have some kind of like, I don't know, I can't speak for all of them. I'm generalizing, right? I've seen like they kind of like will make guidelines. They won't fully like there's a range of how they do that. And they sometimes their comments, pardon me, can range from very gracious, sort of shoulder shrugging, be like, oh, well, to each their own or whatever. Sometimes it can get very defensive and counterattacking, especially if they feel very like personally attacked, which like I can kind of get, though. Anyway, here's the deal. Instead of just disagreeing and being like, okay, you're here on Halloween and okay, I'm here on Halloween. Okay, I guess we disagree. And like leaving it at that, kind of like dropping the subject. I've noticed things can get super personal really fast. And all of a sudden, these cat fights erupt between total strangers online in moms groups. And the moderator has to turn the comments off because it's just getting vicious. And that's not the heart of most big family moms groups, certainly not the heart of mine. That's one of the reasons why I was nervous to talk about this today. I'm like, man, what if the comments erupt later and some women take issue with the fact that I didn't talk about this the way they would have talked about this, or I didn't go strong enough or hard enough, or I wasn't whatever enough. And then boom, I, for the first time in the history of this moms group, choose to turn off the comments because it just starts to go against like the group rules. Cross that bridge should we get there. I just want you to know, like, this was one of the reasons I was nervous to talk about this. I was like, man, what if we become that group? So there's that. But I was like, this is important enough to talk about. So I'm going to do it anyway and trust God with what happens next. Honestly, reading some of these comment feeds in other moms groups has been like super depressing. And I'm just like, really? This was happening 5 years ago. And I chose to absolutely leave Facebook for 5 years for this reason and other reasons. Facebook for me became like a drunken party at late hours and people were starting to smash bottles and, fights were breaking out. I was like, ew, right? I'm going home. I'd rather be alone than be in this kind of environment. I recognize that doesn't represent everybody everywhere. I'm just saying that was part of my journey. And the fact that I've only come back to Facebook and started this group a couple months ago. And that's been a whole journey of courage and healing and trusting. And today, this is probably the one live I've been the most nervous about doing and really had to pray through and be like, God, I'm going to let go of that fear. I'm going to speak from my heart. And if people choose to attack me, then honestly, that's a risk I'm willing to take because I think the issue is important. So when people ask me, well, Tara, how do you talk about Halloween online? You care about personal holiness. You obviously don't participate in Halloween anymore. How do you talk about it online? Do you talk about it online? Do you have the guts to talk? Yeah, it gets personal, right? Well, here's how I do address Halloween. First of all, I aim to make it actually more personal speech rather than online forums because 90% of communication is nonverbal. 10% of what we say is actually the words we've chosen. Like you could take a transcript of what I'm saying today and just type it out. But you know what you wouldn't get? My tone, my body language, all these manners and gestures and smiles and eyes that actually are 90% of what I'm saying. So when we're online in like this text type format, whether it's like a post, or a comment, that's text format. That's what I mean by text. And there's no tone. So spoken word, that personal aspect of actually getting what I'm saying and how I'm saying it is massively important in my opinion when it comes to a controversial, sensitive topic. No matter where you are at on that topic, it makes all the difference in the world to actually open up the other person's mind and heart to considering your position and actually giving it thoughtful reflection, especially if you, like me, probably do have a position. Most moms, especially a little bit older moms, have a position and are pretty confident about where they're at and can sometimes get a little defensive if they feel attacked. So when we speak to each other more one-on-one, more personally, like I'm doing a live today, right? So you're getting all of what I'm saying. I find that to be far more effective when we're talking about something that is hot. That's why I take the time to do this stuff face to face as much as possible. I actually avoid just giving like a blast online and being like, I've read comments who are just like, y'all better wake up kind of thing. And I was like, that's Not particularly helpful. That doesn't open up people's minds to seriously and thoughtfully consider your position, a position that I might actually be in that, side of the camp, so to speak. But how does that persuade anybody to cross over? Really? They're just like, ew. If I have to be like you, right? Anyway, the second thing is personal. Behind screens, behind our computer screens, on our phones, whatever, we can sometimes speak in a way that really, would we have said it that way face to face? Would we have said it that way if we had to look the other person in the eye and deal with the fallout relationally afterwards? Maybe not, right? And sometimes the gloves come off. We're like, where there are children involved, goodbye graciousness. Goodbye speaking the truth in love. Oh, I'll speak the truth, but it's going to be like a sledgehammer because this is too important to sugarcoat it. I'm being a little facetious, but hear me out. There's a difference between sugarcoating and grace. There's a difference between compromising and sort of like diluting your message and being kind in the delivery. It actually is incredibly wise and effective. This is like aiming the arrow well and taking the time. And the other people like, and there are some personality types that are much more blunt in their speech, very analytical minded, and they just get to the point. Not going to waste time sugarcoating it or padding their phrases. I have sometimes written comments on spicier, more sensitive topics, including Halloween, where I've written my original comment, but before I hit post, I go back and add about 6 other sentences that just kind of hedge it in with a little more grace, with things like, in my opinion, in my experience, my understanding of scripture is, and I just kind of put that in there a little bit more in hopes that this total stranger mom will be like, well, that was nicely said and quite meaty. I will consider it. But if I had maybe not put in those sentences, they may be like, wow, a little rough around the edges there, Tara, right? That to me is like speaking the truth without love. And as we're exhorted to in Ephesians, speak the truth in love. And I've noticed in many topics, especially Halloween, some women will speak more of the truth as they see it very strongly, but they kind of leave out the love because we're strangers, right? We don't have to deal with it afterwards. And we're trying to honor the Lord, but we're called to speak the truth in love. And I see other women who speak in all the love, but where's the truth, right? And that balance, I realize it's imperfect. Sometimes we tip a little too much. And if you speak only truth, it can be caustic. If you speak only love, it can be compromise. It's challenging. I get it. And in this topic, it really is. So what helps me is I keep it spoken and actually personal, which is much more effective to have like just personal dialogue, the real person on the phone or like more visual like this. And I keep it, spoken and personal. That's really what it comes down to. And if people are like, but Tara, Jesus, when it was important enough, he got mad and we should be mad about this. This is a serious topic, Tara. Like people tell me I don't take it far enough. That apparently having a stay-at-home family night is still not enough. People take issue with me not being strong enough about this issue and somehow dishonoring the Lord because I don't, I guess, like, address this the way they would. And I'm like, well, I'm living according to my own conscience. Scripture does says that if I'm living according to my conscience, or if I'm, the opposite, if I am going against my conscience, then I'm in sin. That's something I should be really careful about. Jesus did overturn the temple tables when there were money changers, turning the house of the Lord into a den of thieves. I don't really equate the Halloween talk to the same kind of there was one time when Jesus, really lost it. And so it's okay if I lose it online. I'm not seeing that connection as being like a validating the fact that I can suspend speaking the truth in love. I don't see that as an occasion or an opportunity to kind of take the gloves off and get personal and attack a total stranger's parenting, integrity, or character based on this one singular issue that I might still in my heart of hearts be like, girl, totally disagree. And I leave it at that. I trust the Holy Spirit to do the Holy Spirit's work. I know it took me years to come to a point of making the break and choosing to just let go of Halloween entirely. It might be a journey for them. And if there ever is a possibility that in my personal circles or online, they might come and talk to me, I want to leave that door of communication open rather than just kind of getting the last word and kicking the dust off my feet and treating them like you're not even worth my time. You're not worth the effort of talking to you graciously and compassionately about a sensitive topic. Just, I can't believe you. Well, that's probably the last time we're ever going to talk about anything. I would like to be a trusted resource when it comes to mom topics, and this is one of them. So whether my personal relationships or online, I keep that door open through speaking the truth in love and being gracious and not attacking the other person's character or parenting or even their salvation. Instead, I'll say my piece as graciously as I can if I choose to, and I actually avoid doing it online. I think it's far more effective to do it in personal relationships. And that can be tough because all of us moms, we love to share, we love to gab, we love to help. But sometimes I think it's good for us to ask, is this really helping? Or is this me just getting this off my chest because I'm so frustrated and I'm so worried and I'm so concerned and I have such a heart to see the bride of Christ be made more pure in this increasingly dark time. And instead, I'm just going to take a baseball bat to the bride for her own good. So I find it to be far more effective and winsome to speak the truth in love and to treat people online the way I would want to be treated, especially online, because we don't have tone, we don't have relationship, eye contact, or any of that. So I put more effort into those posts rather than less. I know that this can be a tough one. And talking with this today, I still feel like, oh no, I'm inadequate. There's so much more I could have said. Honestly, I'm already over time. I could have gone on for half an hour. We could do a whole workshop. There's so many scriptures I could go to, and I chose to keep it on this topic today. And if you found that this was helpful, you think this group is helpful, then I want to encourage you to participate in next week's new giveaway, which is invite a friend to the group. And if you feel like there's another big family mom with 3+ kids in your life who she would really enjoy this space, you think the way I'm delivering content, what I'm sharing in this group is valuable and helpful, then please feel free to go ahead and just hit the invite button or send a personal message with a little link to the group to one of your mom friends who think this would be a good fit. And if they choose to join the group, then you get put into a random draw at the end of the week to win a special thank you from me. So there's that. Some topics are so controversial and personal. Oh my gosh. Like I said, reading the comments can be depressing and toxic. Like I said, it was one of the big things that led me to leave Facebook completely for 5 years. And it took me a whole journey to come back to be here talking with you at all. And also posting on YouTube, a whole other form, right? Everything I do here also goes to YouTube as well. I'm choosing to be a light, and by God's grace, I feel like I'm like a dead rock. I really have no goodness in of myself or wisdom. Anything that you're like, Tara, that's so awesome. Yeah, God gave it to me. Okay. I was just like a drug addict living in the Rockies 20 years ago. That's who I was. So the woman you see today is by the grace of God. And choosing to stay home on Halloween and navigate the difficult decisions as a parent, as a mom, it's all by God's grace. And the grace that I give to others is because of the grace that I've received. That Jesus loved me when I was a mess. In those first early years as a Christian, I was still struggling with a lot of things, a lot of messed up thinking. And I'm so grateful for the people, and above all, God, who is gracious and kind and patient with me, that helped me see things in a new light and consider things without just shutting me down through shame for not being there where they were fast enough. So I'm like a dead rock, just shining the light of the sun, right? SON. And I'm so grateful that I get now to speak the truth in love, and that I've been granted some courage to come back to Facebook, because it's been a journey. And I'm a little bit sad to see that this topic can turn spicy so fast and comments get turned off. So if you feel like, this is a good group, this is a group where we could talk with each other and not bash each other. And I do ask you women, if you are compelled to comment, speak the truth in love and treat each other, one another, the way you would want to be treated, especially online. That's what I ask, and I thank you and I bless you today. And I look forward to sharing more with you. My personal journey, that one will be shorter. This one went a little extra long. I'll be sharing my journey on Friday of where we got here, and maybe that'll be some gracious food for thought for someone else who's also struggling with that. And would just appreciate someone being a little kind in the delivery rather than shaming them. So I'll